Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, dive into the TA. We're going to make this a short video. I don't think there's much to talk about considering we have been sitting down here for the past few days. Market has not decided to turn around yet, and it's just a matter of time. It is a waiting game, and that is all you have to worry about. Now, starting off here with SPY, 567.89 down to 565.16. I think there's a solid shot we come down and test this level. Now, I will point out we tagged the 200 daily moving average today, where we typically see long-term investors start stepping back into the mix. I'm not saying we're perfectly going to bounce back from here, but it's very likely that we're going to have a bottom put in right around here. Everybody and their mother is bearish. There's no denying that one. The fundamentals are bearish. The market is, just deciding to, reprice in all of, a whole new economy. So that's what's going on here. That is what's taking place here. And, until they stop doing that, this isn't going to turn around. So, you may think it sounds dumb, but don't expect it to turn around until it starts turning around. I got nothing else to say about it other than that. On the upside of resistance, you have 575.35, 579.90, and 585.39. Coming over here to QQQ, we're also dancing right around the 200 DMA. You actually did end up losing it today. You opened up right at it, and you faded. You faded down to Tuesday's low over here. On the downside, you have 483.75, and if you do lose that level, you're coming down here to 477.40. That is your next support. So you have 483.75, and then you have 477.40. On the upside of resistance, we have 489.38, 494.49, and 499.70. IWM, what are we cooking over here, guys? I already pointed out the weekly chart. We're coming into, the 2 to 3 year base we built out here. We broke out above it. We're going to call it a 2 year base. We broke out above it, ran to new highs, and now you're retesting it. Weekly RSI at this point is even getting down near oversold territory. You're underneath 40. Daily time frame, you could still see daily RSI sitting in oversold territory. If we come down to 201.99, I expect buyers to start stepping in back here. We are very likely going to have something like this where you shoot back up to 217-ish, which will be near the 200 daily moving average. That is IWM. DIA, what do you got over here, guys? Support is going to be 418.51. If you cannot hold this 0.786 fib, which it does not look like it's going to hold, it looks like it's going to continue down, then you're watching 418.51. And that is right around the 200 daily moving average. I know, I don't want to talk about it anymore either. We've been sitting around it for quite some time on, most of these tickers we're talking about, and we're still here. Again, nothing has changed. Coming over here to VIX, it does look like you can continue perking up here. You're looking still constructive, and it does look like you can get that spike. But if you get that spike, you get that spike over 28.32, get this daily RSI above 70, you're probably only going to stay above there for a day. That is how that is likely to go. You see a VIX spike, that is when you could be confident the bottom's in. We have not gotten that VIX spike. We've just we've been building up here, just looking very constructive ever since we broke out over here. You're just continuously making these higher highs and higher lows. Coming over here, the fear and greed index, you are sitting at 17. That is where we had our little right over there. We had our bottom going on over there March 4th before we got a little pop. Did that pop last? No, it did not. All right, but it is something that it gave us this little green bar right there. Okay, once this does start turning around, I do think it's likely going to get a decent sized pop. I don't think it's going back to all-time highs at this point, but I do think we're going to get a decent sized pop. Over here to QQQ, guys. You did not hold this break and retest level. You're on the 200 daily moving average, but things are looking mighty ugly. Are you going to fade tomorrow? I have absolutely no idea. But I'll tell you right now, the daily RSI has been sitting above oversold territory for quite some time now, and they have not been letting it hit oversold territory where we typically get buyers stepping in. They just have been prolonging it, prolonging the inevitable. Whenever we get that, and we get our VIX spike, that's when you can go ahead and start saying bottom is in. You can start looking for upside from there. Till then, we will see what happens. Until then, I'm going to say, hey, Until it happens, don't expect it to happen. I know it sounds very stupid. I understand that. You're like, Henry, it can go up and go down. Guys, you know where my stance is on this, okay? I'm very sick and tired of talking like this, you know, just looking at upside over here. What I have been doing, although, you know, I'm not really comfortable playing with puts, all right? I'm going to be completely honest on that. I have been playing SPX puts. Just about every single day now, we've gotten a big move that I've taken advantage of, and, you know, have been able to bring like a $200 put up to 1 to 2K. Pretty much every single day, I just keep taking these a lot of SPX puts, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do much in this market. I'm not flipping bearish on this market. But I will have my fun to the downside. And I'll tell you guys, every single freaking day, you have that where you can get that $200 to 1 to 2K on your SPX puts. One put. All right. That is something that literally has been happening every single day. All right. So that is that. Moving over here to the big boys. Tesla. All right, you're continuing to fade underneath the 200 daily moving average. You do have that bullish divergence there on the daily time frame. It is also here on the 4-hour. And, you know, speaking of bullish divergences, this is why, you know, people get really bearish here. But, you know, if you weren't bearish this whole time down and you weren't playing downside, I really don't think it's the wisest decision just to sell longs and, you know, flip short. I think you're gonna get wrecked. I think it's a, you know, at least, you know, if you're sitting with things in time, yeah, you get that bounce, they come back. Premiums will pump back up. If you switch and you just short the hole and you somehow get the move that I've been talking about, yeah, it's not going to be good feeling. So that's why I just talked about the SPX thing I've been doing. I'm not comfortable just switching. There's not a chance I'm gonna. And, you know, maybe I'm going to sit in a little more red for a little bit. It is what it is. But that is something that you could be doing and taking advantage of if you would choose so. But you do have this quadruple bullish divergence going on down here on QQ's 4-hour RSI from oversold territory. I don't care what anyone says. This is not what you get when you get a crash. This is not what we had over here. You didn't build out just a straight up divergence for a week and a half there. You didn't. Okay, it's like something over there. You built out the divergence. You built out that divergence. What happens? You sprung up a rally. You built up that divergence. I know it looked like death, but then you sprung up a rally. All right, I'm not saying you're about to spring up a rally, but I'll tell you right now, when you had your actual crash, this thing just stayed in oversold territory. It also did not form any divergences right here. Okay, you can just see it right here. As price went lower, this thing kept making new lows. Right now, we're not getting that. I promise. At some point, this thing's about to snap back. And I can't tell you when that'll be because, like I said, it's not going to freaking happen until it happens. And I'm not going to be sitting here being a permabull thinking that it's just going to match. I'm not going to call for a bottom anymore. Okay? You guys don't want to see me call for a bottom anymore? I won't call for a bottom. I don't even want to do these dickhead fucking, like clickbaity titles anymore. Guys, I'm sorry, but you guys don't like clicking on the boring stuff. You don't. All right? But you know what? For my own mental sake, I don't want to sit here getting roasted anymore. I don't want to sit here being known as the guy that's calling for a bottom. I don't know what to make the titles and the thumbnails. I'm not going to sit there calling for a market crash. Then I'm going to get comments saying, oh, Henry's flipping. Now we're going up. Duh, duh, duh. I'm going to get trolled either fucking way. Go fuck yourself, little troll ass bitch. It is what it is. All right. It is what it is. Pardon my French. I'm genuinely tight that every single freaking day I get notifications from the YouTube app of just people being dickheads. It is what it is. All right. And at some point, the market is going to snap back, and I'm going to adjust when that starts happening, and I'm going to adjust to this freaking market. But for the time being, I don't think it's in anyone's best interest. That's my opinion. All right. If I'm going to keep being wrong, I'm going to keep being wrong. If you agree with me, you agree with me. At some point, this thing is going to snap back, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's going to happen. I can't tell you exactly when, and I'm going to stop trying to tell you exactly when. All right. I've already been wrong. I've accepted it. I've admitted it. And somehow I still get clowned on. It is what it is. The move that I really got wrong, it already happened. Down here, don't tell me I'm wrong about here, because right here, we're doing a whole lot of absolutely nothing. Okay. Anybody who's coming onto the channel clowning on me, we're not moved all week. We haven't moved. All right. We have not moved. So don't be a dickhead. It is what it is. All right, coming over here to Meta. You're down here to the 0.618 fib. You're still down here at the weekly 21 EMA. You're still at a break and retest level. That's all I'm going to leave it at. You're probably going to get buyers stepping in. But it could happen anywhere here in the golden pocket. 590 up to 623. Amazon, you're right at the 200 DMA, and your daily RSI has now been oversold for 2 weeks. All right? 2 whole flippity weeks. All right? At some point, it's going to bounce back. Even in the bear market, there wasn't a freaking dime when you got what you're getting right now, okay? You want to clown on me? Guess what? You could have traded the way you wanted to trade the past 2 years, and you would not have made money. Just because it's doing it once right here, and your boy, gets it wrong and has to adjust, that does not mean your boy has been wrong for 2 straight freaking years, all right? It has changed. I mentioned a while back. At some point, we're going to see when things actually change. You're going to take out a weekly low here on the Qs. And at some point, I said, you're going to get it wrong, and it is what it is. And then you start trading in the direction of the trend. Guess what? This is that sign here, that warning sign, that, yeah, things are starting to change. And I knew at some point I was going to get it wrong, and I got it wrong. But that was, kind of what I was pointing to the whole time. Until it is different, it's not going to be different. Now it's different. It is what it is. I can't do nothing about it. What I did do is I learned. You be defensive in this environment when things start to change. And when, someone, well, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think anybody cared about what Mr. Biden was saying. You didn't have anything being done. So, the market just kept doing what the market wanted to do and going up. That's pretty much it. All right. You just respected what was going on with the charts. Over here, Mr. Big Bad Tariff Man wants to talk about bad news every single day and get long-term investors spooked. It is what it is. All right? It is what it is. Nothing you could do about it. Nothing I could do about it. You're just going to go along with the market. The market, guys, it will do whatever it freaking wants. It's your job to adapt. It's not going to keep falling off a cliff forever. It's going to get that bounce. When it gets that bounce, that's your chance to adapt. All right? Amazon, you're underneath the 200 DMA. Watch for a test of 165.31. If you get it, not Amazon, I'm bugging. Goog. All right, Goog. If you get the test of 165.31, look for a bounce over there. Maybe you sweep that low there. Maybe you put in your bullish divergence over here on the RSI. And then you come back up and you test today's high. And that is going to be right around the 200 DMA. The other option is you gap up above 176.73. You get above there, and then you start pushing up to 183.79. That is that. Microsoft over here, guys, you got one heck of a bounce going on the past 2 days, and today you kind of just digested that move. What I will say is Microsoft is the one showing strength right now compared to the others. This is the one that's not coming down to new lows, as everything is coming down to new lows. Apple. All right, still kind of just consolidating here. Your support is going to be 230.20. You have the 200 daily moving average sitting right below. This is where you got buyers stepping in last time. All right, this is a level that, will be respected here. You're going to get a reaction. Again, I mean, you could choose to ignore it, and you could choose to get bearish with absolutely every other person in the market, including myself, all right, which is the reason I refuse to flip. If I start getting bearish, and I haven't been bearish the whole time, I'm telling you for a fact, we're right next to a bottom. And I don't want to be the guy calling for a freaking bottom anymore. I'm sick and fucking tired of it. But I'll tell you right now, pardon my French, get your kids out the room. This ain't the place for them right now. When the market isn't pissing your boy Henry off, hey, guess what? All right, the kids can enjoy a PG show. But as of right now, guys, this market is doing whatever it wants, and everybody and their mother is getting bearish over here. You have the fear and greed index sitting at 17. Screw this freaking index. We're not paying attention to it. But it is definitely showing that, everybody and their mother is bearish right now. I have random people coming in and saying the market is crashing. The market is not crashing. But if random people who don't talk about the market are looking at it like this, that is when everyone's bearish. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. NVDA over here, you're coming down to new lows, 110.14. Look for them to hold, but they're probably not going to hold. And underneath there, guys, your support, it's really going to be all the way down here at 195. I personally don't think that's going to be tested. I don't think you're just going to flush and have a $10 move here. But then again, maybe you do. I have absolutely no idea. Underneath here, you really have nothing until all the way down here. If I had to put a level on in between it, it's going to be right over there at 108.15. Right there. That's where you broke out from over here. This little base you had going on, and you rallied from there. That's the video. Avgo over here, guys. It was the star of the show today. You did end up getting that gap up over here. I did think it was probably going to be safe in the market. Guess what? The market did not move with it. So it is what it is. But, you know, you did end up seeing that move over here. I think you hit 210 over here. Yep. You hit just about 215. Now, the last earnings report that, you know, Avgo got a similar reaction to, you did end up going for quite the ride over the coming few days. Is this time going to be different? Is it going to be the same? I think it's probably going to be the same, but at the same time, you are just kind of coming into this, you know, giant cluster area right here where very clearly we have a lot going on. So if you do come up to like 226.80, expect rejection there. This was the bottom of this range, this 2 to 3 week range. I think it was a 3 week range we had going on here. No, 2 week range going on here that you broke down from. Expect sellers there. But, you know, as of right now, it is the thing that is looking like it's probably going to be doing the best over here, at least in the short term. I think we do have potential to, you know, make our way up here and continue moving for the next few days over here. SMCI, I wouldn't personally be focusing on it. But then again, guys, everything's buddy. It's all looking the same. It's all going to keep falling until it stops falling. It is what it is. That's all you can really think about it. There's nothing else to think about. All right, there's nothing else to do about it. If you want to trade the downside, trade it short term. Point out, you know, as I've just been doing the 0DT SPX, I've been, you know, just doing puts or calls at certain times. I played one call, I played 2 puts today, and one of them ended up, it went 200 to 900 bucks, and I was like, oh, hot damn, it was like 205 to there. So, you know, I'm not going to say that's mitigating losses at all, but I will say, you know, it makes me relatively happy knowing that, you know, even if the market is moving, if I was a position long, I'm kind of confident I would somewhat be trading the downside. And that kind of makes me happy right there because, you know, if the market is, you know, switching this environment around, then, hey, your boy is going to adjust. He is going to adjust. All right. Coming over here to TSM. I think you're probably going to come down here and test the 0.618 fib around 169. That would be right underneath 170.79. On the upside of resistance, you have 178.05. You're going to have this little high you had going on over here, 184.74, and then 187.67. Now, as far as Bitcoin goes, guys, they did just announce that they are, you know, the reserve. It's here, it's happening, and do you want to see what happened when that was announced? You died. All right, you died. I'm not going to say I know what's happened in the short term over here on crypto. You know, Trump is a whole freaking beast of himself. He wants to move the market with, you know, doing whatever the heck he wants to do with it. He's going to do it. He says he's not watching the stock market. I know you know what you're doing, buddy. I know you got a goal to get big money into bonds. All right. And how do you do that? You initiate fear in the stock market. I know you're watching the stock market or someone's watching the stock market because you wouldn't be doing all the shenanigans that you're doing without that crap. All right. Bitcoin over here. It's looking pretty hairy. You're right on the 200 DMA. If you happen to lose this, watch for move down to 73.794. That is your most recent breakout level over there. If you test that, expect there to have buyers step back in for move back up to 90K. Now, MSTR, guys, this thing is still sitting right here at your trend line. If you could break out, cool. All right, you look for the break above 322.30. If you don't, look for the pullback into 267.89. Point over here, guys, it's looking pretty hairy. I was really liking how this thing was shaping up, and then you got this. I still have a feeling here you're probably just going to keep consolidating down here, and then you're still going to end up seeing this move up to 265.20 eventually. That's just, you know, how I'm seeing this, how I think it's probably going to end up going. All right. I only got one trade idea for you today, and I'm going to put it on your radar. Baba. All right. Bob over here, guys. This guy, big break and retest off of 125.84. And this guy is looking like he probably is just going to keep doing that little thing where he gaps up. All right. So, you know, in the overnight session, let's just check what this guy is trading at right now. It's up 3% at 144.20. I took my fucking loss on this today. I'm honestly just getting triggered in this market. I deemed I am not going to be taking any more longs in this market until I ain't going on tilt anymore. All right. I am going to be, getting my head back in the right place. Okay. But, as I see now, yeah, I was in the fucking right place over here on Baba. And again, I took my loss on that. So it is what it is over there. But, I do think overall this thing breaks 145.30. I think this can start really moving up to 161.14 pretty quick. Weekly chart speaks for itself. That is the focus over here. It's still going to be something I'm focusing on over here, but I will definitely say right now, yeah, it pissed me off with how it traded today, and now I see it gapping up in the overnight session up to highs. So, is what it is, all right? Is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I know the market's frustrating. Trust me, I know firsthand. It is what it is, and you got to go along with it. And if you want to be an active market participant over time and you want to stay in the game, you're going to adapt. You're going to do your duty and you're going to adapt. All right? Keep your head up. That being said, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.